Welcome into Press Box Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles, along with Luke Jackson, managing editor of Pressbox and PressBoxOnline.com, and of course, the left-hander wearing the baseball cap, Ross Grimsley. Uh, Orioles. I was away this weekend, so didn't get to see the games other than Friday night. Um, Orioles bats Luke a little lukewarm. Looks like.
I think that's a very fair assessment.
I mean, losing two out of three to an improving Pittsburgh Pirate club, but it was disappointing that the games were that close, and yet it was the Orioles who struggled to score that extra run, Luke.
Yeah, they just didn't really hit with runners in scoring position. Not that they had a ton of opportunities throughout the weekend, but yeah, they just didn't give their pitchers enough margin for error, and that came back to bite in the last two games.
Mike Elias got this unique problem. He's got this monster team at AAA right now with about five, six guys nipping at everybody's heels in the major leagues. They're probably a little chippy that they're not on the major league club, a couple of them, like maybe Stowers, Kerstad, and Jackson Holiday. Norby as well. The only one that probably figured to go definitely back to the minors was Kobe Mayo. But they got a monster team down there. What are they, just the Orioles just biding time until somebody gets hurt? What's going on?
Well, these guys, they're going to get their opportunity soon enough. And everybody wants them to start making moves. It's 9 games into the season. I think last year they were 4-5 after 9 games. This year they're 5-4. For me, I would be more worried about the pitching as the season progresses, because I think they're going to hit. But I mean, they won 100+ games last year with basically the same team, and now you want a deep six. For me, that's sending a terrible message to some of these guys. Give them it's early in the season. It's cold. The weather's been crappy. I mean, and usually, let me tell you, Eddie Murray, Cal Ripken, Robin Yount, they started out awful, and got just thinking, well, we're going to send you down. And what happens then? Like I said, it sends the wrong message, especially when you won 100 games. For me,
Well, it's not. Well, the general manager of the team isn't sending that message at all. He's being very quiet and very patient,
sure,
which you'd
no, no,
expect out of somebody who's a good baseball man.
exactly right. And they know it. They talk about, they signed Kemp. This guy made the team or whatever. And you know what? And one of the things, I was on Twitter, and I went on there for baseball, nothing else, because I would lose my mind if I did. But people wanted to get rid of Kemp and stuff. There's a reason why they got him here. These players in the minor leagues, they're only going to get better. They're going to learn how to hit. They're going to learn how to make adjustments. They have nothing to lose by being where they're at. They're going to improve and learn how to handle things at the minor league level, at the major league level. But and there's no guarantee that out of 5 guys, 2 of them are stars. I mean, you just don't know. You don't know how they're going to handle it. So to make moves now, it just and clip some guys is, for me, it's asinine. It's just absolutely, give it a little more time. I mean,
Yeah,
gee,
of course. Of
yeah.
course. I mean, Luke and I get frustrated. We talk all the time during games. We're frustrated with the way Mullins and Hayes are playing, but
Sure.
these are
But hey,
guys
is there a better center
that are
fielder
proven.
defensively than Mullins?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, really. I mean,
No.
but like I said, I would be more worried about the pitching as they go along, because I think that's an issue that, especially, with a couple of guys. So, I mean, what do you do?
I'm so far I'm very encouraged on the pitching side of things by
Oh,
obviously
absolutely.
we know we got Burns. I was
Yeah.
very encouraged by Grayson's performance in kind of a weird weather day with the snow and the hail and all that. And I thought he maintained his cool, and Dean Kramer pitched a hell of a game
I
yesterday.
tell you, he's a guy I think that don't get enough credit for what he does and where he was and where he came from. And But he's done a good job. You get 3 out of 5 guys pitching well, and you got a chance to do pretty good. But I think you give these guys a chance. It's early in the season. The weather's been crappy. Give these guys an opportunity to play themselves back into. I mean, they won 100 games, like I said, last year with the same basic team. Now if it's a little different at the end of May, then or if they start really struggling, then you might do some things. But
Luke, what did Saturday look like? Tyler Wells, right?
Okay. Yeah, Tyler was okay. It looked very similar to his first start, where there were some goods, there were some bad, but at the end of the outing, he gives his team a chance to win. The real shame of the weekend was that Dean Kramer's outing went for naught, because he had great stuff. And really, the only time he got in trouble was of his own doing, with the throwing error
The
to center
throwing
field.
error.
And there was some debate on the broadcast with Ben McDonald and Kevin Brown about whether an inexperienced second baseman like Mateo sort of fooled Kramer on the throw, and whether his footwork was good enough around the bag. That they should have at least gotten one out of that for sure. And if they get one, he probably gets out of that inning unscathed. Instead, they go. But again, they only scored 2 runs. I think they had 4 hits the entire day, and typically you're going to need more runs than that to win a ball game. But yeah, I thought Tyler was okay. But the real shame of that game was that they've got the winning run, or I should say the go-ahead run on third with less than 1 down in the top of the 9th inning. Colton Cowser's up with 1 down, and he's just out-executed by David Bednar, a veteran reliever. Colton's trying to put the ball in the air, and Bednar gets him to ground out to short, play at the plate, and then Tony Kemp comes up, grounds out. So that was a real shame that they had the go-ahead run there, and they had Kimbrel up behind him. So, and Kimbrel again, I thought this weekend looked really good. His velocity is down a touch, but that fastball looks really hoppy right now, and he's commanding that curveball. Hasn't broken out the changeup yet like he did in spring training, but
Luke, clue me in. He pitched Friday night, didn't he?
Friday and Saturday.
And Saturday, right? He did
So,
not pitch yesterday.
correct. He wasn't available.
Yeah.
So that's why Cano pitched.
Yeah, I had somebody, a friend of mine says, Cano's horrible as a closer. He can't be the closer. I said, I texted him, I said, I know Kimbrel pitched 2 days in a row.
Yeah,
He's a
right.
closer. He's not going to pitch a third day. They're not going
Right.
to do that.
And again, the shame of it was that Cano actually found it, but he was too late.
Yeah.
And like it was, I think by the 4th batter, once he had loaded the bases, suddenly he looked great.
Yeah.
But at that point, your margin for error is so thin, and he just very narrowly almost got out of it. But
So tell me one other thing, Luke. I get people chirping at me all the time.
Trying to drive you crazy.
They kept. I know Brandon Hyde loves Jorge Mateo, and I do too. I see the value of him as offensively. Has his play at second base been problematic?
no, I wouldn't say that. He made a fantastic play yesterday that not many second basemen
Okay.
are going. Yeah, I mean he's got really good range, and he can make the play up the middle, plant, throw. He's got plenty of arm for that. It's the nuances of the position.
Was there a double play that they muffed or something like that? That was a key.
No, it was the comebacker to Kramer, where Kramer spun around. It wasn't a great throw, but according to Ben McDonald, if Mateo was a more experienced second baseman, his footwork would have been a little
Right.
better around the back, and he would have at least been able to get one. And
Yeah.
it just seemed like there was a touch of confusion between Mateo and Henderson going toward the bag as that ball came in. Who's going to get? And it just seemed like there was a miscommunication. Maybe the footwork was bad. That was really the only thing. But yeah, I mean, he's not nearly as experienced at second as he is at short. So
Let me pay a couple bills here, and then we'll get back into it. We also want to talk about. Luke and I were talking yesterday, Ross. We got to talk a little bit more again about the proliferation of these Tommy John injuries. I don't know what we can say or what we can suggest, but it's worthy of a discussion. AJ Michaels, one of our fine sponsors, asks a question: what company makes your home more energy efficient, purifies your air, kills all viruses and qualifies you for $6,000 in rebates. Well, that would be AJ Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis at ajmichaels.com. And don't get fooled that hot weather, all of a sudden you snap your finger and the hot weather's here upon you, and those AC people are all busy. So get your AC looked at now, ajmichaels.com. That's a little value added to the commercial. Hey, are you craving that classic New York deli experience? Look no further than the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different, a bar. Atman's has food and drink specials every day. They're now open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at our bar for the next O's game. Atman's Deli, an authentic taste of Baltimore tradition since 1915. Find us at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com. And again, those Red Sox games this week, no better place in town now than Atman's at Harbor Point to sit at the bar and eat some of that great deli. They got the pickle bar, great soups, Atman's at Harbor Point. Back to the baseball discussion. And Ross, not to cut off Oriole discussion, but the Orioles will play 3 games in Boston and then return home to play. No, then they go to Kansas City, Luke. No. They come
they're coming
home
home to face the Brewers, and
and the
if the schedule
Twins.
lines up okay, they might
Is it
face
the-
DL Hall.
Is it the Twins and the Brewers we play at home?
I don't know past the Brewers. I just know that I think DL Hall is scheduled to, or at least in line to pitch one of those games.
Okay. It's funny. I understand the cost of the pocket schedules.
Mhm.
Normally I got my wallet and I got a pocket schedule, and they don't really print pocket schedules anymore. So you got to print things, and I haven't had my printer up and running because my PC's being repaired. So I'm on my
Well, on
laptop.
Friday when you're at the game, you can bring that up.
Yeah.
He said, I would like a pocket schedule, even if it means
I've already
striking out
talked to
one,
people there. They don't.
Okay,
They don't exist, and they're not going to exist for me. I understand why they don't print them, but it does become
How come?
inconvenient when you. What's that?
How come? Why don't they print them?
Because the cost of printing. Everybody goes online now to look at everything. But it's just inconvenient for guys like us that are trying to talk on the air about something. And now I can't go to my phone. Where's my phone?
Right.
Anyway, my phone's
This is
down
really
there.
going off the rails. Hold on.
Yeah.
I could have just looked this up.
Anyway.
You say there's
I
a lot
really-
of
it
problems.
just-
Anyway, the Orioles aren't the trendsetters in this. In Major League Baseball now, they don't. I used to die every year for the full schedule that they would hand out to the media. That's got every team's games. Because
Yeah.
I do my MLB power rankings every week, and I chart every game that's played, who wins and who loses, and they're in my rankings and a grid and all that. And now I got to go to ESPN, go to the schedule, and it takes 25 minutes to do it. Used to take 10 minutes with that pocket schedule.
So
Wow.
the Orioles are in Boston for 3, then home against the Brewers for 3, and then you're right, they have the Twins for 3.
The Twins for 3.
Then they
That's
go
what I
to
thought.
Kansas
Kansas
City for 3,
right?
and then LA
LA.
to play the Angels for 3.
Angels.
And so before the end of April, they will have already played all their games against the Angels and all their games against the Royals.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Yep. And that's why I'll tell you one thing we haven't had a chance to sit down and talk about. Ross, that game the other day was supposed to start. What time was it? A 1:00 game, Luke?
Start at
The game
5.
against Kansas City.
Oh, right. And so
Third
it was
game.
a 1. Yeah, the third game was supposed to start at 1, but it rained all day and it started, I think, at 6.
Right. So they announced they're going in a rain delay. You tell me in this day and age that somewhere between like 1 and 5:20, they couldn't have said to the general public, like, hey, we think we've got a win, like at 2:00, say, hey, the game is still being delayed. We think we've got a window of opportunity around 5:30, 6:00. pay attention, but instead they left everybody in the dark as to what the plan was. Nobody knew that, it looked like idiotic that they were doing it. And I gotta feel that Kansas City probably wasn't real happy about it.
No,
Um,
no, I mean, and Ross could probably
but the
speak to.
problem is, it gets back to the schedule now, that there's so few opportunities to get teams to meet each other,
Right. The common off days for the Orioles and Royals did not
did
match up.
not work.
It did
Yeah.
not work. And Ross, you could probably speak to this better than we can. I would assume that once you're at the ballpark, once you're there, and it's not an off day because you're there, that
Yeah.
you might as well just wait it out, right?
Really? Well, I mean, they got to sell hot dogs and beer. So,
Well,
you know,
it was raining. It was raining so hard. There were so few people at that stadium that you also feel that there's an opportunity to regather marketing the game to people by saying, hey, we were originally scheduled for 1 o'clock. If they had like a spokesperson come on Masson or something, instead, they got these programs that they've now pre-produced, which it's nice that they've got new stuff, but they have up in the right-hand corner, there's this little thing of what's going on at the ballpark, and you get no real information about it.
They don't want the people to leave.
Maybe I'm missing.
Once they leave, they're not coming back.
But my point is not that you don't want them to leave. You want people to stay at the ballpark for 5 hours?
They don't want them to leave.
I can't
If they
believe
can-
that they really, if you really sat down and talked to the powers that be, they think that's stupid too. They
Sure.
just don't know what to do now because the schedule is so condensed. You
Right.
don't play teams multiple times anymore. What may be necessary, Ross, is if they had rained out that game at 3 o'clock, maybe we could have played the Royals when we're in Kansas City.
No, they don't
I
want to do that.
understand you
And they
lose
don't
a
want
They
to.
don't wanna
I
do that.
understand you lose the date. I'm just
Yeah.
saying something's got to give,
Yeah, you know as well as I do. It's all about this. It's all about that dollar. If they can make $5,000 selling food and beer, they're going to do it. And do they? You know,
I don't think they were selling a lot of food.
I don't
From
think
like-
they
From
really.
about 1:30 to about 5:30, I don't think they
No,
were selling much.
But
food.
again, whatever they get is extra. If that person leaves, they're not getting nothing.
They're
So
getting-
that's.
And I will
Yeah.
say this.
Unfortunately, that's how I think. I think that's what the idea is, or they would have canceled the game.
I think
I
this
will-
game. Go ahead, Luke. Go ahead.
I will say this, that the Trop gets dumped on for being a dump. I tell you what, at the Trop, the time and date on the ticket, that's when the game starts.
Yeah.
And so there is something to be said for that
Yeah.
rule. There are no home doubleheaders at Tropicana Field. And I know Buck Showalter always used to talk about that when people would bring up Tropicana Field. Oh, it's such a dump. Don't forget, there's a roof
Don't
on
bite-
there.
don't
And
bite the
there,
hand
you don't
that
have to
feeds
play a
you.
doubleheader down the Trop. And
Yeah,
whatever
people
the
don't wanna
time
play
of day it is,
doubleheaders
that's what it's gonna
anymore.
be.
Yeah.
They don't want to play double headers, not with the pitching the way it is.
Right.
Understood.
That's the last
I
thing.
I think that game, to me, and Luke, you followed pretty closely too. I think that ushered in a new era, how teams are going to handle situations like that. They're just going to wait it out. All I'm saying is I'm not really criticizing them for waiting it out. I think there needs to be more of a strategy of communication with your fan base. And for all I know, Luke, maybe they sent out 20 tweets saying exactly what I'm saying, like, hey, stand by or something. But I didn't. I was just had the TV on. I was doing work, watching other games and everything. And it seemed like I said, geez, they're really going to wait this long?
What
And
was the
then
weather
they get the-
report? What
they
was the
get
weather
the game
report
in, and I
before?
get it. And also what factored in a little bit, I think, I kept thinking the Royals were playing their home opener that would be at 1 or 2 o'clock. They were playing their home opener the next day, but it wasn't until 7:40 against the White Sox. So, all right. We digress there to talk about that. But let's talk a little bit, Ross. Two big time pitchers, young Yuri Perez of the Marlins just suddenly had some elbow, problems. Unlike with Bradish and Garrett Cole, immediately they announced, like within a day and a half, he's going in for Tommy John surgery. He's going to miss the season. And then out of nowhere, the star of my fantasy team, and I feel sorry for Shane Bieber. He didn't know what hit him when I drafted him, but he had looked terrific this year in his first two starts of the season. And he's back. He's back on the shelf, and he's going to miss the rest of the season now.
Yeah.
Is there? Are we missing something? Are laymen like Luke and I missing something?
No, I think I think you know what's going on. I mean, I bitched and moaned about it enough. But Verlander came out with a comment, with a little interview about what's going on. Dr. Andrews has done it. I think
Dr. Meissner also has come out and
he's
talked about it.
in Texas, correct?
Yeah.
So they have come out with the way pitching has been introduced over the last decade or a little longer. Throw as hard as you can, spin the breaking ball as hard as you can. The best defense is don't put the ball in play. No one can make an error or shouldn't, but that is, and seeing that when you try to throw max effort and you try to spin breaking balls, the greatest breaking ball you've ever thrown, every time you throw one, it's a recipe for disaster. I saw this growing up. I saw it in the minor leagues. I saw it in the major leagues. I saw it 31 years as a coach. It's a recipe for disaster. The body and the arm is not made to do that. It's not made for the kids to do it in these places where they go to develop velocity. They're going to have a problem. Minor league pitchers can't do it or shouldn't do it. Big league pitchers, and we've seen, I think there's 10 or 12, 15 quality big league pitchers that are now having Tommy John or hurt, which is, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how it's happened. And I know you guys have heard me talk about it, and you see it and you go, somebody's got to wake up. What is going on is not going to help pitching and the pitchers. They're going to get hurt. Pretty soon you're going to have 4A pitchers in the big leagues. You're going to have young guys there that shouldn't be there, that don't know how to handle situations, that don't know how to pitch the big league hitters.
Ross, what is the pitch ultimately that is the culprit to all this? Is it just velocity? I remember 35 years ago, remember when Roger Craig as a pitching coach was the craze because he taught the split finger fastball, right? Didn't all of his pitchers get hurt eventually?
So, some of them came up with things, but I think the big thing now, compared guys, like I said, are throwing max effort. When you throw max effort, your delivery and mechanics go out the window for the most part. You're jerking your head, you jerk your head, you drop your arm, you're going to miss up and away. You see that all the time. And that's one of the big things. I mean, Nolan Ryan had a great delivery,
Tom Seaver had.
I mean, you can name all the guys, but what they did is they pitched, they went to their best stuff when guys were in scoring position or they had to get a strikeout or a ground ball. That's when they amped it up. Now, you combine some of this stuff that they do with weight training, that has been a big problem. I mean, guys, you get big husky, big guys, they're gonna, you can't pull fat and you can't pull skinny, but you get the guys they're big, strong, muscular guys, they're gonna have issues. Mechanics, delivery. I mean, if that's not together, a guy throws against a stiff front leg. A lot of guys can do that. Guy throws across his body. Some guys can do it, but they're going to end up hurting themselves later on. And that the mechanics are a big thing, and throwing harder than you have to throw. You got to understand that. And the reason guys got complete games years ago is they pitched. They changed speeds. They went to they humped up when they needed to. They threw the good breaking ball when they needed to. Not that they didn't try to throw good ones all the time. They just threw the sharper, harder, good one when they needed a swing and a miss or a ground ball. They don't do that now. Every pitch is a swing, and best defense is don't put the ball in play. And it is taking a toll on pitching and pitchers in professional ball and in amateur ball. I mean, you're seeing kids 12 years old should never have Tommy John surgery. Are you kidding me? It is absolutely ridiculous. And the answer to this is they're going to have to go back at the minor league level and redo pitching from the get-go. And that's the only way this is ever going to change. But you have so many people in the game now.
Who's gonna have the courage to do that?
Well, if they don't, you're not going to have any pitching. You just might as
Yeah.
well set it on a tee and let them just whack away. And that's where this crap is going to. It's going to end up like this.
Save a lot of money on pitching.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and that's another thing. Oh, you're not going to have the multi-year contracts for pitchers. That's done. That's over. They're not going to. This is, hey, more money. And
Yeah.
we don't have to pay these guys.
Yeah.
You know, it's very sad. It's very sad that no one, and the people that said anything, a lot of people have said it, deaf ears. No one wants to hear it.
Luke, you got a thought or two about that? I know you do.
Yeah. So there have been a lot of opinions over the past few days, ever since the news that you broke down, Stan, came to light. The Shane Bieber news was really sad because A, he's in a contract year, and B, he looked great in his first
Yep.
two starts.
Yep.
And this is after a couple of years where his stuff had really backslid. And
He'd gone backwards a little
yeah,
bit.
and he looked like Shane Bieber again. And that was really exciting for people like you who had him on his fantasy team. So that sucked because it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But apparently on opening day he felt something in his elbow, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
So
And Yuri Perez is one of the best brightest
electric,
young stars
absolutely
in the game.
electric. And so Justin Verlander, I'm sure some of you saw it. He was after a rehab start, I believe, about his thoughts on everything that's gone on. He was talking a lot about just what he thought, and I encourage everyone to check that out. And Tyler Glasnow did the same thing. Tyler Glasnow was talking about how he thinks the elimination of sticky stuff has had something to do with arm injuries ticking up. He was explaining that he used to be a sunscreen and rosin guy, and because of that, he was able to hold the ball when he pitched a lot looser.
Mm-hmm.
And now he says without that, he has to grip the ball a lot more tightly. And he says that he believes that puts more strain on his arm.
It
So that
makes sense that if you are gripping the ball tighter, it would tense up your tendons, wouldn't
Right.
it, Luke? Ross? Your ligaments and tendons?
No, absolutely. That's one of the things you teach pitchers, that they don't have to give a death grip on the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're going to muscle it, you're going to, you're not free and easy. And why they changed the baseballs is unbelievable.
And that's one of the things that Justin Verlander was talking about. He said around 2016, Major League Baseball went to a livelier ball. Okay.
Right.
And really it seemed like it peaked around 2019, right? Where just some ridiculous home runs being hit, especially like the center and to the opposite field. And at times during games, especially in the summer, this would basically act like a golf ball, right? The way it was traveling out of the yard. And Justin Verlander said that the way he used to pitch was that, as Ross was referring to a few minutes ago, he would pitch in gears, where when he really needed his best velocity, he could turn it up. His bases loaded, sixth inning, might be his last inning.
Go from 95 to 98.
Yeah, 98. He's got that in his back pocket. But he said because of how lively the ball is, and because of the opposite field home runs that can be hit when the ball is pitched to the outer half, he's got to be really careful to not give basically hitters anything they can hit. And so he says that lends itself to a max effort approach to what Ross was talking about, to try to get swings and misses all the time, because he's afraid that fly balls are just going to leave the yard. So there are a lot of theories out there. Some have complained about the pitch clock. The thing is that the pitch clock was necessitated because pitchers were taking so long to try to gear up to throw as hard as they could every pitch. That's why the pitch clock was necessitated. And the pitch clock was instituted in part because baseball felt like, well, pitchers won't be able to do that anymore. Well, they're still doing it. They're just now doing it with less time to recover. And so it's a bit of a mess.
And that makes a lot. The pitch clock. I mean, pitchers. We work very quick because the fielders are more alert because they know they got to be ready, and the hitters hated it because that made them defensive. But if you're throwing full bore, you're going to need time in between.
Right.
Ross, the ball that Luke brings up, that Justin Verlander brought up, what is the purpose of changing the ball? Is it to spike offense?
I believe
or
that.
is it that the balls cost less money to be made?
Well,
I'm not trying to be funny.
No, if money's involved, I got to go, oh, yeah. But Major League Baseball took over Rawlings or whoever makes the balls. We had Dr. Meredith Wills on. She talked about it, and with the different balls being in play, the 3 different balls and stuff. Well, why are you changing? The balls were slick, and they couldn't put enough Delaware mud on it or whatever hell they did. You couldn't put enough on it. Yeah, you couldn't put enough on it to make it get the sheen off of it and get the shine and the slickiness off of it. So of course, and if the ball's harder, I mean, it's everything was geared to screw the pitcher, as you look at it. But it's you just shake your head going, what's the deal? And it just a lot of it, if you just sit back and listen, it makes sense. It makes sense. And I totally understand why this is happening. We talked about it years ago, that this was a no-win situation for the pitchers, and you're going to have a lot of guys get hurt. Well, unfortunately, I'm sorry, but it's happened. And it's not something that it fell on deaf ears.
And what we really don't want, and what we really don't want, Ross, and you and I have talked about this, is that we really don't want pitchers to eventually be just treated like running backs, right?
And I think that
might be where we're headed.
Perfect analogy right there.
That's a perfect analogy right now.
Yeah, I mean that says it all. That really.
I mean, when you tie in what Ross said before, that long-term contracts for pitchers, you got to be sort of a dummy to give one of those. It's very similar to the way running backs are treated now.
Stan, I got a 6-year contract from Montreal. I thought that was crazy, but I'm not going to turn it down.
Right.
It was a supply.
Who was your agent at the time?
Gary Capstein.
It was Capstein.
Gary Capstein, love him, great guy, and but it was, I got 5, and I said, "Can you get another year?" They said, "Yeah." So I mean, God bless them. John McHale up in Montreal was fantastic. Charles Brofman, the owner, great people. And
did they give you whiskey too, Ross?
Oh no, they didn't do that. But I did get when I got traded. Brofman sent me a letter, and it was the nicest thing. I just wish I could have done more up there, and he was very kind, and I really appreciate that.
All right. Hey guys, we're running way late. Last thought by both of you tonight's game, Purdue versus UConn.
Ooh.
I'm a UConn guy. I think UConn is going to take it to them.
Boilermaker.
You're a Boilermaker?
Yes,
You're with the Boilermakers?
I'm a Purdue guy. Love them.
All right, so
I followed them since the first of the year. I just, for whatever, I like Edie, and I love the guards. The 2 little guards I love. Overall, it's going to be an interesting game. I can't wait to see it.
I think the coaching matchup gives a lot of favor to UConn. I'm not a huge Matt Painter fan.
I love Matt Painter.
Okay.
I can't believe you're a Painter hater.
I'm a Painter hater. Yep, that's me.
Oh, you and I have to go to a Maryland Purdue game in College Park. Okay, and you can see the beautiful stuff he runs. He runs great stuff. I love Painter. But anyway, I think UConn will win because they're the best team. They've been the best team since the start of the season. But if Purdue wins, that would be the first Big Ten title. I think since Michigan State in 2000, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
If we're not including Maryland, which I don't think you should because they
Well,
were.
Purdue's been there in 40 years, have they?
It had been quite a while since they had
Been
been
a
to the
long
Final
time,
Four, I
yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
And I mean, they had gotten close with Carson Edwards several years back, but
I will tell you one thing, this whole Caitlin Clark phenomenon has just been remarkable to watch. That what last year's championship game that drew 10 million fans,
right.
this year the rematch between LSU and Iowa drew 12 million, and then the not the Connecticut, the South
South Carolina.
Carolina
It's like
um
17.
Iowa game
Was it
drew
17?
Yeah, it was. I think it
17.
was. I think it was like
Unbelievable.
17.
So it was the
something like that.
Connecticut. It was the Connecticut Iowa that drew 14,
14. Yeah,
and the championship drew 17 million.
and
And
South Carolina was.
it's a very enjoyable game to watch. I have
Yeah,
to
and
Great.
admit.
South Carolina
Love
was
it,
just too
yeah.
good, too big, too deep,
Yeah.
and too good.
No question. That's the way I feel about tonight's game.
Yeah.
Exactly the same way. Hey guys, before we go, I just want to say it's weather's starting to warm up this week. I know a lot of folks out there are going to say, hey, warm weather, time for crabs. Well, the folks at Costas Inn serve crabs 365 days a year. Maybe it's 363 days a year. They do take off, I think, on Christmas Day and maybe Thanksgiving Day. But the point is, this time of year where a lot of people start thinking about crabs. They'll have them, pretty plentiful, but you've got to call up in advance and make your plans for a crab feast. All right. 410-477-1975. Check out the availability, the price point, the size you want. Make a little plan before you get your 8 or 10 buddies to get together. Great time during the baseball season to go out and watch some O's games over there at the Costas Inn. All right. That's going to wrap it up for us today. Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson. We'll see you back here next Monday, guys. And I'll be on with Mr. Eric Garfield this Thursday, talking about Lord knows what in the world of prospects in the Orioles farm system. That does it for today. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to Atmans at Harbor Point, the new Atmans at Harbor Point. Thanks to AJ Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning and the Costas Inn. For Luke Jackson, Ross Grimsley, I'm Stan the Fan. Over and out. Bye.